Welcome to another Guerilla Sports Hoops. Hoops your daddy, whatever you call it. We're here. We're talking hoops. We're talking Denver Nuggets hoops. Specifically, we've seen a lot from the Denver Nuggets out in Vegas for Summer League. A lot of things have happened since the last time that I spoke with you about this Denver Nuggets team. Let's start with probably the biggest storyline, which is DaRon Holmes with an Achilles injury. The only reason, well, not the only reason, but one of the main reasons this is so worrisome is because DaRon was really the only move we have made in this offseason. There have been a lot of Nuggets fans that have been extremely concerned about what is the holdup? Why has it been so quiet? What are we doing? We're seeing a lot of teams in the West making a lot of moves. We're seeing teams in the East making a lot of moves. And the Nuggets need to make some moves. DaRon was obviously somebody that when I went to Summer League practice, got a chance to talk to a couple of players, and they expressed his athleticism being something that was going to be really, really great for this Nuggets team. We need all of that. We need all the help we can get in terms of athleticism, guys who play really hard, guys who stretch the floor, and DaRon was going to bring that. Unfortunately, he is now out for the season with an Achilles injury. Really, really hate to see stuff like that because obviously, those are kind of tough to come back from. The question will probably linger for a while. Yes, we know he's out this season, but what does his return look like? How quickly will we see him bounce back? We know that with Achilles, it's kind of hit or miss. You either get a guy that has that ability to really bounce back, or it takes some time. So really unfortunate to see this from him, especially in his rookie season when we were, I think, getting ready to see a really great year from him. The Nuggets could have used him in a lot of different ways. So super unfortunate to see that. Things you really, really hate. But what we hate just as much is that the Nuggets have yet to make any moves. I will tell you, there have been more and more continued whispers about Russell Westbrook in Denver. Just so you guys know, right here on this very show, we will be doing mailbag questions where you guys can drop your questions and I will sit and answer them. They will be posted to social media. So make sure you're keeping your eyes peeled for those because we will continue to drop those every week ahead of these shows. And I will film and I will post and they will be on social media and you guys will know all the answers to how I feel about hoops in general, Denver Nuggets specifically, whatever you want to know, we will talk about it. But probably mostly Nuggets stuff. If you have questions about the Nuggets, I will be happy to answer them. So make sure you're keeping your eyes peeled for that. We're going to start doing that every week. I have seen some questions though come my direction about Westbrook. And you guys know I have expressed how I feel about him and what it would look like for him to join this Denver Nuggets team. I love the idea. I really do. I think what we need off of our bench is energy, athleticism, two things that I think Russell Westbrook does possess. We don't necessarily need a Westbrook to come off the bench and score 25 plus. Would it be nice? Yes. Do we need it? Not necessarily, because we are seeing some pretty stellar performances from guys like Julian Strawther, who was out last season with an injury. Didn't get to see much of him, but we're seeing him in Vegas for Summer League really, really tearing it up. 32-point game. He had 6 threes in one of his performances. He is doing phenomenal work out there. So while losing DaRon Holmes was really, really unfortunate, we are at least seeing Julian Strawther as kind of a main character. That's been the storyline for the Denver Nuggets in Vegas while they're playing in Summer League. He's been performing very, very well. He's been playing very, very well. So I guess the question now is, what could his potential role look like for this Denver Nuggets team in this upcoming season? Do you start CB? Hypothetically, let's say you bring Westbrook to Denver. To me, Westbrook is a bench guy. That's what we would use Westbrook for. At one point, was he an absolute no-brainer starter? He's in the starting 5. Of course. Westbrook in his prime, virtually unstoppable in my opinion. Do I think he's capable of sprinkling some of that energy back into his game in the right environment? Yes, I do. Do I think we're going to get Westbrook in his prime again? No, I do not. Unfortunately, I don't think that that's going to happen. But I think that Westbrook is a bench guy. Now, what does that mean? You probably start CB. You've got Jamal. But Julian Strawther is kind of tearing it up. Kind of doing what he needs to do. But for me, what makes me feel really good about that is that we know Jamal Murray has a tendency to be injury prone. We may not see him every game of the season. So you've got a little bit of flexibility there where you could go back and forth between a CB and a Julian Strother as guards that I think could be interchangeable in the starting five. Now, ideally, you keep Jamal Murray. That would be the best of the best. I think that would be the best case scenario. You keep him there. He stays healthy. You don't have to worry about his health at all. That would be the best case scenario for sure. But again, we're seeing Julian Strother with this great performance out in Vegas, proving that he may be a guy that you could trust to interchange throughout the starting five if you needed to. I do think that there's probably a chance he gets some pretty good minutes this year. We didn't see that from him last year, but we're seeing also Coach Malone speaking very highly of Julian Strother while out in Vegas, talking about how this is a guy where he's seen this potential from him before. He knew he was capable of this. Really unfortunate he got injured because we weren't able to see this until right now. So, chat, how do we feel? How do you feel about what the starting lineup could look like? Let's say you add Westbrook. I personally think you keep him on the bench. That's a great guy to have on your bench, in my opinion. Only Morale actually disagrees and says the Nuggets don't need Westbrook. Nuggets have Strother. He can play backup point guard. Yes, you're right. He can, but I don't know. There's something about having, I think, that veteran presence off the bench that I think could be really useful for this Nuggets team if they're trying to make another deep championship run. I think it never hurts to have more veteran presence, and Russ would bring that. So I don't know. I think, yes, Strother is performing very well in Vegas right now, but obviously we know summer league doesn't always translate to regular season play. So I'm hoping that he continues to do what he's doing, but there's a chance that we see him slow down a little bit. And I think having a veteran would be great, especially coming off the bench. Jalen Pickett will be Strother's backup if Jamal is out. It's real simple, Liv, LOL. How do we feel about that with Jalen Pickett? I think that Jalen Pickett, obviously, when I spoke to him before he left for Vegas for Summer League, he felt very strongly that he was the leader. And that was the role that he was going to take on when he went to Vegas. He was going to have the ball in his hands a lot. This was going to be a really important year to prove himself because he kind of, when he was asked the question of, are you viewing this as a big opportunity, knowing that Jamal is one and there is that backup point guard position, and I think everybody in Nuggets Nation knows that Jamal may not play the full season. He may not be healthy and available the whole season. And to which Jalen said, yeah, I do view this as an opportunity to prove myself, but also just to improve my personal game, not really having in mind that I could potentially be getting starting minutes. I personally don't think Jalen Pickett is a starter. I don't. I think that there's, again, a Westbrook to me. I would rather have starting. Let's say we don't have Jamal Murray. I'd rather have a Westbrook starting over a Jalen Pickett. I don't think Jalen has proved himself enough. And honestly, I know he said he wanted to be the leader heading out to Vegas for Summer League, but I think Julian Strother has definitely been the main character here. So, yeah, I would rather not see that happen, Only Morale. That's the only thing I'm going to disagree with you on. I don't think that would be a smart decision to have him as the backup. I think I would prefer Westbrook as the backup point guard, but again, with these veterans, as they get older, as they get more wear and tear on their bodies, there's no guarantee that Westbrook would stay healthy if he came to Denver. These are things you have to think about. We see it across the league all the time. Players like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, that at one point in their prime were unstoppable, were great. You would die to have them on your team in your starting lineup. And now they're kind of a liability because they can't stay healthy. Their bodies are pretty banged up and they've been in the league for some time. And as they get older, do you want to invest in your younger guys? Is that a better decision for Coach Malone? Do you invest in your younger guys to come alongside your starting five that we know is a pretty solid starting five? Obviously, losing KCP takes away about half of this Denver Nuggets defense, which makes me want to throw up. But pretty sound starting five. If you throw CB into the mix, I have always said I think he's a very coachable guy. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think we haven't even seen him really tap into his potential. I think we've seen him in great moments. Obviously, he's a very exciting and fun player to watch. He's been clutch in a lot of situations, especially in last year's championship run. And we saw him in the postseason this year really come up big for the Nuggets in a lot of ways. So I think the ceiling's very high for CB, but I don't think we've even seen him reach his maximum potential. So that's very exciting. And obviously, I think if he is a coachable guy, if he does get along well with the starting five, which as far as I'm concerned, he does. I don't know that for sure. I think he is going to be a great addition to the starting five lineup. Now, it's the backups that you worry about, injuries, health, all things. I think people forget that when you win a championship, so much has to go right. There are so many things that have to go right. The Nuggets, thankfully, did not really ever have to worry about health in last year's postseason. And we saw this year, in this season's postseason, how drastically things changed when you had a Jamal Murray battling a calf injury, Aaron Gordon dealing with a shoulder injury. I mean, it really made a difference. KCP, we know, was having some issues there as well. I think, was it an ankle? Reggie Jackson as well with an ankle. So, yeah, I mean, injuries do make it really hard to have a successful postseason run. I think that obviously one of the overarching themes of the Nuggets this past year was that they were exhausted. I could see it before they even started playing in the postseason. It just did not look like they were mentally checked in. They looked tired. So it is going to be really great for this Nuggets team to have guys off the bench that are rested, that are young, whose bodies aren't banged up. Obviously, that was something that was really exciting about DaRon. Him being obviously the number 22 overall pick in itself was really, really great. But it's a pretty devastating blow. I mean, he had 11 points and 7 rebounds in 25 minutes in his NBA Summer League debut. So he was off to a really hot start. So definitely going to miss that athleticism. Like I said, his teammates spoke very highly of his athleticism before they left for Summer League. So something that will be missed. But again, when you've got guys like Julian Strother that are showing up, and let's not forget, Peyton Watson is another one that I think just needs to be invested in more. I think that is a guy that you could really use to your advantage if he's given the opportunity. Hunter Tyson is another great one. I think that there's a lot of athleticism there. I think people were very impressed with what they saw from him at Summer League practice. So there is a lot of young guys that hopefully won't have that injury aspect to their game that we'll have to worry about, which makes things very exciting. But Julian Strother, to me, is a very, very exciting player right now. And I think that he provides just a little bit of security. Like, it just feels like we've got a little bit of wiggle room now. We don't have to be on pins and needles, hoping that Jamal Murray, nothing happens to him, because if he goes down, we're doomed. We have some backup plans. We've got some guys that we can rotate through the guard position. We've got some guys that I think can come off the bench, be backups to this starting five, and really make a difference. I would love to see Westbrook. Lots of whispers, you guys. I'm seeing all over my Twitter that the Clippers do expect to part ways with Russell Westbrook, and that the Nuggets are a front runner to sign him if he becomes a free agent. I still feel the same way I did 2 weeks ago when we brought this up. At this point, the Nuggets just need to make a move. I really, really need them to make a move. And I do think having veteran presence, because I just talked about all the benefits and all the wonderful things that investing in this young group that we're seeing at Summer League will bring to this team. But I do think there's also value in having a veteran off the bench. I think that when you start getting into that postseason, we saw it with a team like OKC. Extremely talented, number 1 seed in the Western Conference. SGA is arguably one of the most talented young players in the league right now. That team has a lot of potential. I think what they were missing in their playoff run last season, this past season, was a veteran presence to kind of keep everybody cool, calm, and collected during their postseason run. And I think that's what KCP was for this Nuggets team. So I don't love seeing him go, but I think Russell Westbrook could also be that. And I think he could do that off the bench in a weird way, without necessarily like that really big veteran presence. Bruce Brown was kind of that. He would come off the bench and you're like, all right, we're good. Like, everyone can take a deep breath. He's going to get everything centered. We're going to be good. We're going to be all right. And I do think that Westbrook can provide that same, I don't know, groundedness maybe. We know what happens with this Nuggets starting five when they start playing like above their bodies. You've got Aaron Gordon doing the most. He can go from being the most unstoppable guy on the court to making some pretty like game-changing and game-costly mistakes. Jokic is Jokic. I don't even enter him in this conversation. Jamal, we saw in this last postseason, have some pretty large inconsistencies that made it really hard to trust him as our starting point guard. MPJ, consistent for the most part up until he wasn't, which again, just a huge credit to the defense by the Timberwolves. They made it pretty impossible for him to do what he had been doing throughout the postseason. And then, like I said, CB's kind of getting pushed into this, and I think is still going to be being molded and coached and is probably going to be a very different player by the end of the season than he is when he starts the season. And for that, we're thankful. You want to have a coachable guy. If he's young and he's joining the starting five, because that's kind of all you've got, you want him to be coachable and want him to be able to learn along the way. So yeah, I just think there's more upside than downside to having Westbrook on this team. I just think he's a bench guy and not a starter. And we'll leave it at that. Chat, how are we feeling? Let's check in with you guys. Lonzo Ball. Yeah. I mean, obviously the injury, very unique injury that he had to deal with. Very interesting situation. Super bummed for him, actually, because I think that it seems like it took a toll on his mental health to be out the way that he was. But yeah, I mean, he had such a unique procedure, didn't he? I mean, I think I read like, was it something with cartilage? But it was a procedure that's not done often, if ever at all. And as far as I know, it was relatively successful, but who knows what longevity looks like after that. So again, another player that's great, and had a really great, like, when he was at his peak, he was great and he did what he needed to do for his team. But an injury like that, with such a unique procedure being done with a lot of questions and uncertainty, I wouldn't want to invest in him on my team. Injuries, they matter. Unfortunately, I know that these players can't do a whole lot about them sometimes, but as a front office, as a team, you have to think about those things. So, again, I really am just waiting at this point to hear about Russell Westbrook. We're hearing whispers from Shams, actually. And Shams is a pretty reliable source. He's very rarely wrong. So hopefully what he says is true and that there are conversations being had that Denver is the front runner to acquire Russell Westbrook and that the Clippers do plan to get rid of him. I think there's more upside than downside there. Do I think that Russell Westbrook is going to be back in his prime when he enters Denver and he's going to be dropping 25 plus off the bench? No, I don't think that. That would be delusional of me to think that. That's not what I think his role is going to be and should be when he comes to Denver. I think his role needs to be energy, athleticism, and cool, calm collectedness off the bench, that veteran presence that is really hard to teach. It's hard to have that. We had that in KCP. We've now lost that in KCP. So if Russell Westbrook can be that guy, I feel very, very great about that. Chat, is there anything left that you want to talk about? Jokic is balling for Serbia. Yeah, and did you guys see Jokic with a little facial hair? Kind of digging it. Is Jokic entering a new era? I am here for it. I love it. He is balling, and it feels good to see him balling in the offseason, okay, because we know Jokic can have a lot of fun in the offseason, as he should, okay? 3-time MVP, should have been 4. He should be having fun in the offseason, but to see him balling, maybe he's keeping himself in some really good shape. Maybe he knows, just like Nuggets fans know, that they were a little sloppy. They were a little tired. They were a little want in this year's postseason. So maybe we get a reignited flame with Jokic. He's got facial hair. He's looking cool. Very much digging the facial hair look. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I like it. It's cool. So yeah, I don't know. I think that Jokic, hopefully, my biggest hope, I guess, would be that this starting 5, I guess starting 4, because CB is going to be a new addition, and I think he'll have that energy right from jump because he's potentially in the starting 5 in this upcoming season. But I hope for this starting 4 that they just have a little bit of a refreshed body and refreshed mind, because it was a drag, to be honest, to watch this Nuggets team in the postseason. They felt just heavy and tired and exhausted, and it made me feel, as a Nuggets fan, heavy and tired and exhausted. Quick question that is not necessarily related to the Nuggets necessarily, but it is related to, I guess, Russell Westbrook. Let's say that Westbrook is waived by the Clippers, okay? And you've got Kawhi Leonard left. Paul George is gone. He's now gone over to the Eastern Conference and is with the 76ers. What does Kawhi Leonard do in this moment? Do you get rid of Kawhi, open up some money, and kind of hit refresh? I think the Clippers need a rebrand. They already got a new logo. I think it's time to rebrand that entire team. Kawhi, as we know, as great of a player as he is, I've also always loved his personality. Just very like stoic, but also, then you hear him laugh and he just feels like he'd be a really fun person to hang out with. I don't know. I could be wrong, but always been a fan of Kawhi. That being said, speaking of injuries, he is always injured. The failed experiment that was Kawhi Leonard and Paul George was a massive dud because neither one of them could stay healthy to play together. They had 5 postseasons that were extraordinarily unsuccessful because either they were both out, one of them was out, or they just couldn't make it happen with the remainder of that roster. So is it in the Clippers' best interest to hit refresh? Do you get rid of Kawhi, free up some money, and rebrand this whole team? You've got a new logo, okay? So you're off to a good start, but I just don't see the upside in keeping Kawhi Leonard on this team. Injury prone, and who is he? I think Kawhi Leonard, maybe this is a hot take, but I don't think it is. Kawhi Leonard to me is better as a 1-2 punch. He doesn't have the 2 right now at all. So to me, kind of feels like you're paying him for nothing and might be in the Clippers' best interest to say, see ya, it's been fun to Kawhi, and just hit refresh. I think that is not a bad idea for this team. Now, what the Clippers decide to do is none of my business because I just care about the Denver Nuggets in this moment and what they plan to do and the moves that they're hopefully going to start making because it feels awfully quiet here still in Denver. And the one move that we did decide to make is now out with a season-ending injury. Hate to see it. So, yeah, I guess that's a question that I'll leave you guys with is what should the Clippers do? Feels like they're a team right now that is just like, ooh, like bad. I wouldn't be surprised if they have some of the worst odds in the Eastern Conference. I think the last time I checked, or the Western Conference, I apologize. I think the last time that I checked, they were plus 5,000 to win a championship. And the 76ers that just acquired Paul George are plus 850. If you don't know betting, if that sounds like a foreign language, basically Vegas has no faith in the Clippers whatsoever and a lot of faith in the 76ers. So there's the translation for you. Chat, we'll answer a couple more questions before we get out of here. How are you guys feeling? What are we feeling? What are we thinking? Liv, would you rather have an 11-win team every year but won't win the Super Bowl with Dak Prescott or 3 development years with Bo Nix than draft a quarterback? Because I am a Broncos fan and I do speak about the Broncos every Monday and Friday alongside Nate Jackson. Make sure you guys are tuning into that. We talked a little bit about the strength of the team that is the Denver Broncos and the running game that they hopefully will have established before this upcoming season to set a Bo Nix up for success. I would say give me the Broncos, man, because it's only up from here. The Cowboys have been sitting at the same spot, plateauing at the very top, what they think is the top for literally forever. So yeah, it's only up from here. Sean Payton, I think there's a lot of exciting things to come with him, but we will be diving into more of that Friday. Make sure you're tuning into GFD, Guerilla Football Denver, every Monday, Friday with Nate Jackson and myself. We're talking all things Broncos, so make sure you're tuning into that. I would love to have you guys there. Anything else, chat? How do we feel? I am hoping that the next time that we speak, there is some type of progression in the Russell Westbrook situation because at this point, after losing DaRon Holmes, the one move that they made in the offseason, we got to do something. Give this Nuggets team a little bit of, again, veteran presence. I think losing KCP, not only did we lose defense, but we lost that veteran energy that we so desperately need. And I think Russell Westbrook could be the guy to bring that. So That being said, this has been another Guerilla Sports Hoops, and we will be back again on Thursday, same time, same place, talking all things Denver Nuggets basketball, hopefully with some more updates on Thursday. A little bit more to talk about, but I appreciate you guys for sitting here, hanging out with me. We'll see you soon, and go Nuggets.